Hi, everybody. Welcome to this webinar, investor webinar with Avicanna. We're happy to see you here. Happy to see Aras. Happy to see Avicanna trading again after a little bit of, unprecedented event that happened with the company some months ago. Could have been a little unfortunate, but it was still one of the best times for the company in terms of business development. So we're happy to have Aras here and provide the latest update on the company, and happy to see you here. And everybody is super excited about the trading resumption and the future of the company. So the way this webinar will work today, Aras will start with a formal presentation, which will take about 20 minutes. He will go through the slides, provide an overview of the company for those of you who need a refresher, or those of you who are watching the story for the first time, and obviously provide the latest update, especially very fruitful last couple of months. And talk about near-term plans, longer-term vision. And after that, we will start with the live Q&A session. I'll moderate it, and Aras will take on the questions in a written form. So please, any questions that you have, I know a couple of you submitted the questions in advance, just email them to me. But throughout the presentation, feel free to leave your questions in the questions and answers box on your screen. You should see it either on your screen, and there's a button on the panel as well on the screen where you can click on the questions and answers, and just type it in, and it will get answered at the end of the session. One more thing I wanted to mention, there is a handout box where we have uploaded the most recent financial statements and MD&A, as well as the presentation, which is the latest presentation. It was just finalized yesterday, and this is the presentation that Aras will be using today. So all the files are downloadable, so feel free to click on the handouts and download the files as we speak. That being said, I've taken enough of the airtime, and I'll, transfer it towards Aras, who will do a much better job with presenting the story. Aras, over to you.
Thanks, Irina. Appreciate that. Hi, everyone. Thanks for making the time today for us to give an update. I imagine there's a lot of the existing shareholders and supporters that are on the call today, so it will be a bit of a refresher, hopefully a bit of an update for you. For some of the folks that have joined for the first time, I will present in a way that will be also an introduction as well. So we will try to cover the complexities of Avicanna within a 20-minute period. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Aras Azadian. I'm the CEO, one of the co-founders of the company. I've been the CEO of this company since inception, which is about 5 years now. Very excited about the developments and where we stand today as a pharmaceutical company with the progress we've made. Both on the R&D side, the clinical side, but also commercially. So I'll try to capture as much of that as possible. Getting right into it, today the company operates within four major silos or four major business models. One being the medical cannabis division, which is branded under the role Phyto logo. This is now commercial in Canada. It's commercial in Colombia. Because the products are also available within adult use segments, we are offering them, or within the adult use segment, we're also calling them wellness products. Pura is our skincare line. Given the complexities of regulations around the world, Pura is in some countries marketed as a cosmetic. In markets such as Canada, it's actually marketed as a cannabis product. But this is our skincare product line that's backed by human clinical trials. Arius, which is a part of our vertical integration, is our supply chain business. This is originally designed to supply Avicanna with its own pharmaceutical needs in terms of active cannabinoids. However, today we're actually supplying a number of other companies, and I think 11 countries to date we've been able to successfully export to. And then finally, aligned with the long-term vision of the company is our pharmaceutical pipeline, which continues to make progress as well. So as a general overview, today the company is in commercial stage. Which, as a biotech company, as a company that's focused on advanced and proprietary products, commercialization is obviously a much more complex process and a much more complex pathway. We're very excited to say today we're starting to generate revenue, and we're actually selling products in a number of countries. So we do have a comprehensive commercial portfolio that does include all the four business silos, or at least three out of the four business silos, with the exception of the pharmaceutical business silo is now commercial. We are a multinational organization. Today I'm calling in from Colombia, where I'm checking in on our vertical integration and working with our LATAM team. We are active, obviously, in Canada, where we conduct studies. Our head office is there, and we are commercial, but we're also active in other markets, including the United States. We have a very comprehensive partnership with Shoppers Drug Mart, or at least a subsidiary of Shoppers Drug Mart, which is medical cannabis by Shoppers. Today we have, I think, 11 SKUs of products commercial with them, and we're on track to have several more. From a scientific perspective, a lot of the supporters and the shareholders of this company believed in the vision of the company, which was evidence-based, standardized cannabinoid products. We have delivered on that. We've taken over 30 products from the lab into market. We've taken a number of products into the clinical development stage. We have established what we believe is one of the industry-leading scientific platforms for drug development and clinical trials, and we've taken advantage of our expertise in terms of product development and drug development to commercialize those products. And then finally, we've established a vertical integration in South America that actually functions. I understand that there's been a lot of attempts in building vertical integration in developing countries elsewhere within this industry. We've successfully built one in Colombia that is allowing us to produce low-cost, environmentally sustainable, and organic certified biomass in terms of cannabis biomass, which we are extracting, purifying, and now exporting around the world as well. So that's sort of the general overview of the company. We will get into each one, and I'll provide corporate updates. So in terms of our scientific platform and what we've accomplished, we're very proud of the expertise that's been built in-house. Our scientific know-how, our capacity to develop products has now been validated through our commercialization strategies and our commercialization results. So just to highlight around our R&D team, we are part of a Johnson & Johnson incubator. We've been there for about 4 years, which is inside the Mars Discovery District, which is the Silicon Valley of biotech here in Canada. We're very proud to have been a part of that. I think it's been important for our credibility. It's been important from a destigmatization perspective as a pharma company to be able to conduct research in such a prestigious place. It's also opened up a lot of doors for us in terms of the collaborations and the clinical partnerships we have established in Canada, including the University of Toronto, partnerships with now UHN, University of Guelph, some of the major clinical research organizations such as Charles River. We're now working with TRU, Thompson River University. So for a relatively small company, we've achieved what a lot of the larger companies have not been able to do, which is to establish real R&D and clinical partnerships with the top academic and clinical institutions. And that, again, is a function of the work that's been done in terms of the research inside Avicanna's own sort of team and labs. We've been successful in attaining a number of grants over the last year, non-dilutive funding in terms of government-issued grants for our research and our research collaborations, an extensive drug pipeline. So in addition to many of the products that we're going to cover today that are already commercial, we do have a very extensive drug pipeline of sophisticated products that are in various stages of clinical development that, again, comes out of our R&D labs. Getting into the product categories, so Phyto was essentially incepted from the concept of, hey, we have advanced products that are sophisticated, that are stable, that have great delivery, that have great bioavailability, and are designed for specific benefits for patients in a standardized, accurate way. However, in parallel with moving these type of formulations to drug development and clinical development, we have the opportunity to commercialize them within the Canadian marketplace and now Colombia, which is A, a proof of concept that the company has the ability to commercialize, B, early revenues, but C, it helps us generate data in terms of which kind of formulations, which kind of products are working or having positive effect in which clinical pathologies. And this commercialization effort that initially started about a year ago has now been successfully enrolled in Canada and Colombia and is on track to be expanding into several other markets. To give an overview of Phyto, these are, again, cannabinoid-based CBD only or CBD and THC formulations that are all advanced. When we use the word advanced, often what this means is, A, they're not inhalation products, B, they're accurate, C, they're designed to have a particular effect, whether it's fast-acting, whether it's high bioavailability, if it's a topical, whether it's local, or whether it's transdermal. The product development process Avicanna takes, even in its medical and wellness products, is a pharmaceutical process in which there's drug delivery, there's preclinical testing, stability in vitro, in many cases in vivo, and then we optimize these products to ensure that they have the effect that we desire. And this is what we brought into the Canadian marketplace about a year ago, originally in partnership with Shoppers Drug Mart. And now we've expanded that into adult use channels, including Alberta, Ontario, Saskatchewan, New Brunswick, and Manitoba. This is also the first medical cannabis line that we know of that is commercially available inside major Canadian hospitals. And I'll touch on the Sunnybrook partnership as well. So Phyto today is offered in 3 different models with Shoppers Drug Mart. The first model is the medical cannabis by Shoppers, their typical commercial portal. This is about 30,000 patients and growing. We're established as one of the leading brands. As I mentioned, we have about 10 SKUs today, and that's growing with Shoppers, and we've had a very successful partnership. It's been a very fruitful collaboration, a lot of data sharing, a lot of learnings with the group, and a lot of what we've accomplished with Shoppers is what we're now duplicating in other markets. 2, our products, specific products are chosen for UHN, real world evidence study, which is conducted by Dr. Hans Clark. This study is analyzing the efficacy of cannabinoid-based products for comorbidities, including pain. And that's a very interesting study that we're very proud to be a part of. UHN is, the largest medical institution in Canada. And then 3, in partnership with Shoppers, we're actually starting to supply hospitals. This for us is a very important validation in terms of the company's reputation and the quality of our products. Today in Sunnybrook Cancer Center and in Sunnybrook Hospital, Phyto medical products are available in the pharmacy, meaning physicians, specifically oncologists, can prescribe our products for patients to pick them up on the way out. And I think this is a very important milestone for Avicanna, considering that these are the most vulnerable patients. These are oncology patients, and their physicians, knowing that some of these patients are using cannabis products, prefer to have products that are standardized, products that are advanced, and products that they can help prescribe and dose. And we're very proud to have been chosen as a formulary that's available to these patients. Continuing on the Shoppers partnership, again, massive proof of concept for us. Just some important highlights here in terms of the Shoppers partnership. It's very interesting to see the demographics and the patients that we've been able to target. While our sales are growing and we're obviously having a successful penetration and more SKUs are coming online, what's very interesting for us is that the number 1 segment of consumers, which are patients in this case, are 61 to 75-year-olds. So this means majority of and if you can see from the chart, majority of our consumers / patients are 40 and above. This is very important because it's completely inverse of the adult use segment, in which it's mainly adult, it's mainly men within the age of 20 to 30 years old. Meaning we've been able to actually create a medical cannabis channel or medical cannabis partnership within this channel, but also to be able to support and help patients with particular comorbidities and clinical pathologies. And we believe this is a massive proof of concept and a good learning as we expand into more markets. So our strategy here is to work with the pharmacists at Shoppers. We work very closely with their partner clinics, and our medical team is consistently training them on the benefits and the efficacy of these products in terms of education, but also how these products are more standardized, how these products are stable, how lower doses required, with particular Phyto products versus what's in the market. And this is allowing patients and physicians to have better titration and better dosing guidelines. So very, very proud of what we've accomplished here, and we believe it's just the beginning. With that said, we saw the opportunity with our advanced products at Shoppers as a signal, as a sign that we should potentially expand them into the adult use segment. We see the adult use segment in Canada as essentially an OTC designation in some ways, because the products are now available to more consumers that don't necessarily want to go through the physician, don't necessarily want to go through the medical documentation process. And of course, this is a much bigger market. This is a $3 billion market today in Canada, forecasted to go up to maybe about $4 billion. We recently entered it. We have about 10 listings today in Ontario, Alberta, and a couple of other smaller provinces. We're very excited about the early traction we've had. Of course, with our type of products, education is key. We're now collaborating with many of the retailers to establish a wellness and medical segment within that channel and to provide the education and training that makes the process a lot easier and opens up that market, actually opens up the opportunity within the adult use segment to allow more wellness consumers to feel comfortable to come into these type of stores. I think the adult use recreational aspects of retail, in my opinion, has been saturated. There is not products that are as advanced as ours or as standardized as ours. And by entering, I think we're going to not only be successful within that channel, but also we're going to help expand that channel again for more wellness and even medical consumers. Getting into Pura. So Pura is the first product line we had officially commercialized initially in Colombia. This is a CBD dermocosmetic brand. It's an advanced, again, the word advanced, it's an advanced skincare product line, 13 SKUs of functional products that are designed to provide a specific benefit from a skincare perspective. Today, Pura is commercialized in Canada with Shoppers Drug Mart. It's also commercialized in Canada across several adult use channels, a few of the provinces, including Alberta, Ontario, and Saskatchewan. We're in the process of commercializing in the United States, European Union, Ecuador, and Brazil as well. Brazil will be a white label partnership. However, these products are now in the process of going through that commercialization. Again, proprietary advanced products that are, for me, designed to actually provide a specific functional benefit. We've done the clinical trials of 3 of these products, actually human studies. We believe Pura is the only, if not the only, one of the only skincare products that have gone through human clinical trials with CBD. We tested for safety and efficacy, and the results were very positive. That information is now being used for marketing purposes, but also we're going through the publication process. So this is something that we can share. Finally, this is new for a lot of the shareholders. We've established a multi-level partnership with Al Harrington, MBA great, an MBA veteran, and for me, a social equity ambassador in the United States in terms of minority involvement and minority representation and Black ownership within the industry. Viola is his brand that's been 10 years old. It's 10 years old. It's been established very well across the U.S. Part of our multi-level partnership, which initially started with re+PLAY, is for us to commercialize Viola in Canada, and we are weeks away from that launch. We expect that to be a successful launch, a successful penetration into the Canadian market, which is a very multicultural market. And we believe, or at least I believe today, that there's no brand that represents or provide that level of minority representation. re+PLAY is a CBD-only brand that's designed by athletes for athletes. So this is, again, Al, his team doctors, in collaboration with our R&D team. We established a couple of formulations that are designed to have functional benefit in terms of sports recovery for athletes. This product line is launching in the US in the next few weeks and is actually launching in Canada in October. So we're very excited about the opportunity there as well. Next slide just gives a general overview of how we've positioned these brands within the adult use segment. Again, we are a pharmaceutical company. However, we believe that the commercialization of these particular products in Canada, which is a pretty mature market, acts as a revenue driver for us, B, a proof of concept, and C, the data being generated in terms of real world evidence and also consumer feedback is critical for us as we are expanding into more markets and as we progress our pharmaceutical pipeline. I know I don't have that much time, so I'm going to go rather quick over all of this. I think I skipped a few slides. Yeah, sorry. So our supply chain business, many of you are familiar with it. We established this in Colombia, again, originally to ensure that we can have sustainable, low-cost cannabinoids for our own commercialization, whether it's our cosmetics, medical, or pharmaceutical line. Today, this business unit has evolved to being also a supply chain for several of our pharmaceutical partners around the world. We are cultivating CBD, CBG, and THC dominant strains, cultivars. We've had 30 plus commercial harvests that have been done. Our costs are validated at below 10 cents a gram. This allows us to then ensure we have a consistent supply chain for our pharmaceutical products and a select group of companies that we're also supplying for the same needs. We're doing this in an organic and sustainable way because we're in Santa Marta, Colombia, where the environment allows us to have very little environmental intervention. So we've been very successful in accomplishing this vertical integration. 11 countries so far we've been able to export to. So this business model, the supply chain business model, which is very active obviously in South America, is slowly starting to prove itself as well. We're seeing more and more traction within LATAM. We believe the Latin American opportunity is growing. We believe we're one of the most significant players in South America, considering that we have obviously Avicanna's intellectual property and intellectual capacity, but we're combining that with our supply chain and low-cost supply chain. And as Latin America grows from a market size and a market opportunity, we believe that we will maintain a leadership position and be one of the top, I would say, 3 to 4 companies. So we would certainly have a major market share as it expands. Finally, our pharmaceutical pipeline. I think this is obviously the long-term vision of the company, and I think everything else in between is learnings, experience. revenue proof of concept for us to establish our pharmaceutical pipeline. This is where the company started from. Today, the pipeline is focused on a number of clinical indications. We've officially finalized our first drug candidate that has gone through drug registration now in Colombia. We expect to submit drug registrations for this epilepsy drug in Ecuador and Brazil in the short term. We've also taken some of the Phyto formulations, and we are now submitting for phytotherapeutic designations in Colombia. And in parallel with that, in addition to the Latin American efforts, we're working on a couple of drug candidates in North America that are going to follow the FDA Health Canada pathway. We've had to take some steps back. We were originally going right into a phase 2 trial for epidermolysis bullosa with sick kids, for example. To take some steps back and go and add additional preclinical studies, considering the advancedness of our formulations or the proprietary nature of our formulations, some of them being topicals. But we're making traction and we're making progress in terms of that on the FDA/Health Canada pathway as well. The final drug candidate that for me is one of the most interesting and one of the most exciting candidates is our osteoarthritis candidate, which is a deep tissue gel. It's very similar to the deep tissue gel that's in the marketplace that is doing extremely well in Canada. This product has been advanced and it's gone through osteoarthritis preclinical animal models here in Canada. And we're now in the final stages of improving the product and proceeding into further preclinical studies. So the drug pipeline continues to proceed. We've obviously spent the last year focusing much more on commercialization while maintaining some progress within this channel. From a clinical perspective, the cosmetic trials are completed. We're enrolled in a number of real-world evidence studies on Phyto, and our pharmaceutical trials are proceeding into various stages of clinical development, and we will continue to progress those as previously mentioned. How am I doing on time, Irina? 2 thumbs up, okay. From a financial highlights perspective, it's very important to consider that the company is still very tightly held. We've had a hard 2 years in terms of capital raises, in terms of the market conditions. However, we're still very tightly held in terms of 41 million shares issued. A lot of it is held by institutions and groups that are very close to the company, the founders, obviously, and the insiders. We're obviously traded on the TSX Senior Exchange as a pharmaceutical issuer. We're now listed in the OTC and in Frankfurt as well. These are just some of the major highlights. The industry peer part, I can see that has been minimized, I guess, when it was converted here. But I often get asked that question, or asked, how do you compare Avicanna? And it's quite difficult. You know, we've paved our own path. We can be compared to the biopharma companies. However, we are selling products and we're commercial where they're not. We are vertically integrated when they're not. Often we're compared to Colombian cultivators and supply chain companies, in which, again, I would argue that we have Canadian commercialization, global commercialization, advanced products, intellectual property that they may not. So it's quite difficult to get a direct peer. But I think today, with the company making significant traction and progress in terms of commercialization, a lot of that proof of concept is in place. They're seeing what we've been working on for several years now come into the market and actually succeed in the markets that they've been entering. So I think we're at the proof of concept stage in terms of revenue, and we will see that progress, especially as it enters more into the pharmaceutical side. I won't bore everyone with management. I think everyone is familiar with the team. There hasn't been major changes in terms of the executive team. Same core team has been there from the beginning. We've continued to grow. We've obviously evolved. We've made some additions. We made some changes in terms of board recently. We welcomed 3 new board members, Flavio Zaklis, John McVigar, and Dr. Asad Kazimini. We believe that they're a fantastic fit for the next stage of growth of the company, which is more on the pharmaceutical and commercialization side. So very excited to have them on board, and they've been tremendous help over the last 2 months as we solved the audit issue that led to a stock halt, the major elephant in the room, and I'm sure we're going to cover that within the Q&A stage. Finally, from a Milestones perspective, as I mentioned several times, we're now head down commercial revenue generation. So what's coming up for the rest of the year or the next 3.5 months, commercialization of Pura in Ecuador, US, UK, potentially some other European markets. First drug candidate submissions into Colombia, Brazil, Mexico, and Ecuador. Colombia has recently been accomplished already, which is important. This is a pharmaceutical drug candidate that's now going in for commercialization and marketing authorization. Launch of Viola and re+PLAY in Canada. So these are the Al Harrington's brands that we're commercializing together, and the launch of re+PLAY in the US by Al Harrington and Harrington Wellness, which is Avicanna's formulations. On the supply chain business, we're very excited about attaining GACP. Recent regulations has evolved the opportunity in South America, specifically out of Colombia. We will be able to export flower as well, and GACP is a prerequisite for that, so that's a major catalyst for us. And then, of course, to continue to progress our pharmaceutical pipeline. As for 2022, very quickly, marketing authorizations for some of our pharmaceutical products, proceeding into phase 2 clinical trials for our OA drug and EB drug, GMP certification of our extraction facilities in the supply chain business unit, and of course, expansion of Phyto, Pura, and other brands into more and more markets. So very exciting phase for the company. I believe we're in the best standing we've ever had. The company's from a revenue, commercial, proof of concept perspective, we've never been stronger, and we're just, in my opinion, getting started. Investment highlights, I'm sure everyone's familiar with. I would say de-risked. Today we're commercial. A lot of the regulatory milestones and approvals that could have been risk factors are obviously now solved in terms of commercialization, and we believe there's just room for growth. The management team has gone through every curveball possible. We believe we're experienced. We know the industry better than most people in the industry. We've been there long enough to know it and understand it, that it's not traditional CPG, it's not traditional pharma, it's certainly not just a supply chain business, and we've understood that. We're diversified, scalable margins. Our business models, are all much more proprietary with significant entry barriers. We don't sell flour in a bag. We are selling advanced proprietary products in all the markets we're involved in. From intellectual property perspective, we believe we're a powerhouse. It's all Avicanna IP. All the research being conducted, all the patent submissions, it's all Avicanna IP. World-class partnerships that we continue to establish and grow. And of course, we control our own destiny in terms of vertical integration. This is a new slide. I think it's a cool slide. It shows sort of where we are, what we've done. If anyone's familiar with this industry, you would know how difficult it is from a regulatory perspective to expand into new markets. You're talking about a controlled substance that's stigmatized, and we're proud to say today we've had some commercial activity in 11 or 12 countries. We're seeing these brands commercialized in various markets. So it's been a very exciting few months, especially in the last few months. Unfortunately, we were halted, and most of those accomplishments were missed. However, that's the purpose of this webinar today, is to give everyone a good update. I think I'll pause here. Irina, if you want to take some questions.
I want to take some questions, a lot of questions. I mean, obviously, from the investor standpoint, it will be a little more specific questions. But before we go into that, and ask a lot of people would want to know about revenues and near-term plans. But before we go into that, I think because you talked about it quite a long time during the webinar, and it has come up during multiple conversations before. Why don't you still touch base on what it's like to be in the medical cannabis side of business? Because I still think that a lot of investors, especially retail investors, are a little bit confused when it comes to differentiation between recreational market, medical cannabis market, and you say we're more of a biopharma company, right? So what are some of the opportunities and challenges that go with being in a medical side of business?
Someone very intelligent once told me, while adult use or recreational cannabis might be bigger than medical, what's bigger than both of us? And the answer to that was medicine. And I think what's important is we're taking the pathway of producing medicine. We're producing products that are showing signals in terms of their efficacy. We're seeing patients. I think about 70% of our sales at Shoppers Drug Mart is repeat patients. We're seeing people that are benefiting, whether it's pain, sleep, anxiety, epilepsy, that are benefiting from our products. So in terms of medical, it's a very different market, and we often get placed within that same category of recreational companies and that are, they take flower, they dry it, they put it in a pre-roll, or they put it in a bag and they sell it. We take a very different pathway. We're producing advanced products that are standardized, that are stabilized, that are ensured that they're accurate and they're consistent. And the level of responsibility Avicanna has when it's delivering products that are going to oncology patients is quite different than a company that knows most of its products are going into a dispensary for adult use and recreational benefits. So I think, A, we have a very different pathway, different responsibility, but B, we're just getting started. And I think a lot us being able to commercialize, even though we're a biotech company, us being able to commercialize within these channels is been a massive proof of concept and a learning as we continue to build that pathway out. But I think we're still in the first or second inning, when it comes to medicine. And I think we certainly are one of the leaders in this industry at a global level with what we've been able to accomplish.
So obviously the challenges along the way, and you said there are different stages, but would you say that in the longer term you would envision this market being, massive, maybe bigger than recreational?
Yeah, because I think with recreational, it's what's the size of the cannabis market, where with cannabinoid-based medicine, it's what's the size of pain, sleep, anxiety. What's the size of those markets, right? I think they're slightly bigger, right? So
Philosophical question, almost. There was almost a philosophical question. I'm saying, but yeah, you're
yeah,
right. And okay, so let's dive into some other questions that we have. You mentioned U.S. and Viola agreement and everything. There are more states these days that are legalizing the use of cannabis. Do you have any specific strategy in place for the U.S. expansion? Anything else you'd like to do there? Move forward, maybe expand into different states, verticals. Any plans?
yeah, I think it's a great question. We so far have been successfully exporting CBD, CBG, and actually feminized seeds into the U.S. So we are active in terms of supply chain. We are launching Pura in a couple of weeks in partnership with Red, White, and Bloom. We finalized the manufacturing for that already. And we have the partnership with re+PLAY, in which they are commercializing their own brand, obviously, but it's Avicanna formulation. So we have three forms of revenue in the US this year. It will be royalties in terms of re+PLAY, it's raw materials that's already established, and it will be Pura. One area that Avicanna will not touch in the near term is going to be THC. THC is not federally approved, and we won't take that pathway simply because we ultimately want to submit for FDA approvals and FDA drugs, and we don't want to alienate ourselves and put ourselves within that sort of recreational category that will, not be well received by the FDA.
That sounds good. And you're now present in through different brands, collaborations present in 11 markets, international markets. Is there any are there any plans towards the end of the year or next year to expand into more markets geographically, I would say, or are you putting more focus onto expanding into different verticals inside those markets, or both? Maybe can you expand on that?
I think our predominant focus is going to be North America, specifically in Canada, where we just launched within the adult use channel. We're going to continue to expand there. We're going to continue to expand in terms of revenue in South America. Like, that's our focus. Of course, Europe is very attractive, but considering our expertise in terms of Latin America and our footprint in North America and Latin America, that's where our predominant focus is. But as exciting as it sounds that we're in 11 countries, they're all just proof of concepts for now. They're all just market openings, with the exception of, let's say, Canada, that's getting more real in terms of revenue. So now it's more time to fortify those, to enhance those markets, to grow them. I think, probably in the second half of 2022, we'll be more focused on Europe and other markets after that.
Sounds good. And there are two questions that can go together. And I know you love answering questions about money and commercialization, right? Right, Aras? So maybe you can address the situation, how this recent events maybe impacted your treasury as well. And obviously, what is your current cash position? You have been previously reporting revenues going up quarter over quarter, like in significant amounts. And
Yeah.
is that still happening? What is the main revenue driver right now? And are there still any talks about, hitting profitability by the end of the year? Maybe it has been pushed to next year.
Yeah, I think they're all valid questions. So I think the challenge we had with the auditors, which obviously we're glad that has been resolved, and I'm glad the timing of this webinar was done in a way that is good. We're trading again. It was very expensive, in addition to obviously very painful. It's quite unfortunate what happened to the company. I'm proud of what we did in terms of resolving it and getting out of it, but that certainly had damage in terms of our cash flow. It had damage in terms of our capital market strategy. We believe we're back on track now, and I think this 3 or 4 month hiatus has been good for us to be able to get a lot done in terms of commercialization. And in terms of revenue, we had some early revenues in 2020, but there was a lot of one-offs. There was a lot of export of seeds and exports of raw materials that were not necessarily reproducible or repeated. While that was exciting for the interim period, those were very, very early revenues. In 2021, the revenues we're seeing are on finished products. We were able to deliver 5,000 finished products in Q1, closer to 15,000 in Q2. This has all been published. I just want to make a note. These are finished products. These are not inhalation products. This is not flower. These are advanced medical or skincare products that have been delivered. And we're seeing consistent growth within those commercial products in all the channels that they're in. And in terms of where that's going is we just got started. Like we just entered the adult use segment, or the adult use market, and the potential there, obviously for wellness and medical products, is still very early. But as that grows and that side of the industry matures, especially in Canada, as it has already in the United States, we think that can be a serious revenue driver. And we will continue to see revenue growth Q3 and Q4, and that will continue to trend. I think predominantly driven by Canadian commercialization and South America exports, but some point in 2022 is when pharmaceutical revenue and pharmaceutical margins kick in. So I think the tough parts of what we had to do has been done. We're in a great spot in terms of commercialization, de-risking all of that, and we will continue to see progression in terms of revenue, margins, and we're still in parallel lowering costs. So it's a good place to be. To answer your question around profitability, I believe this year we certainly are going to hit profitability in our North American operations. We're on track for that. South America is where it's a relatively earlier market, as you can imagine. We're hitting milestones, we're reaching milestones, but that will take probably a little bit longer. So I believe Q1 next year will be closer to that.
Okay. So is there, I don't know if you will be releasing any projections, or if you're kind of, anxious about doing that, but is there a sense of what your revenue profile will look like over the next couple of quarters?
We haven't provided guidance, so I have to, obviously, when we're going to provide guidance, we have to do that at a public disclosure level. So we do intend to do that, actually, because, and what you probably saw from Q1 to Q2 is progression in a consistent level in terms of product reorders from shoppers from the provinces, and that actually has trended quite well into Q3. So we are in a better position as a company to now provide guidance. It's quite difficult for us before, where we're active in so many markets, we're in a proprietary pathway, we're in a unique sort of business model. So now I think the company feels a little bit more comfortable to provide guidance, and I think we certainly have better insight into the market opportunity. So I think that will come in the next few weeks in terms of guidance for the market as well.
And the people, I know it's an investor webinar, and forward-looking statement, obviously we can't really provide financial advice, but obviously we'll know why we're here, because we think Avicanna stock is, deserve to be looked at, and it's a great stock to buy. But also, since everybody's interested in revenues, you can also go and purchase Avicanna's products. We can use this time to promote the products as well, right, Aras? Because we had a lot of people, you can actually mention it on the call, because we had a lot of emails from investors asking, some people are still confused, whether they can purchase the products, how they can purchase the product. Maybe you can just quickly actually provide this information for everybody watching.
I like that, Irina. Let's promote the stock, and let's also then convince people to buy our products. This is a double win. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point, right? I mean, the products are available. We've spent years putting these together, so it would be my pleasure to send, obviously, any of the folks on the webinar products, but also they are available. You can go to stores, you can buy them now. If anyone is, for the Canadian folks, if you sign up with Shoppers Drug Mart, you can receive the products anywhere. And the good thing about Shoppers is you have all of our products. I think today there's 10 on the portal, and there will be about 17 this year. That you can buy. If you're in Ontario, the Pura products are available on the Ontario Cannabis Store. Our deep tissue gel is available on the Ontario Cannabis Store. In Saskatchewan, the Pura products and the deep tissue gel as well. Alberta, again, the skincare products and deep tissue gel. Manitoba, some of the oral products. New Brunswick, some of the sprays. So they are available, and I think it's great for the people that are either shareholders or interested to actually see what goes into a product that we develop. Again, we certainly have not taken the easy pathway to delivering products, but it's great for people to try them, and I'd love to get feedback when possible.
Well, to wrap it up, I think the perfect question would be, now that you're trading again, why now is the perfect time to be looking at Avicanna? Some of the, let's say, maybe three main reasons you think now is the perfect time to be looking at the stock.
I think we're, and I don't want to sound as like as a biased CEO, but I think we're a misunderstood company in many ways, because the retail cannabis investors now are demanding revenue, which is fair, in terms of when they're comparing recreational companies to each other, and looking at margins as that side of the industry further commodifies. But Avicanna is in revenue while it's a biotech company. We built our proof of concept. We are showing that we have the capability to go from benchtop, which is a lab, to the market and to the clinic in parallel, and build a vertical integration. I think we've built the recipe for what is going to be a dominant player within this industry. We have, from intellectual property to supply chain to established formularies and brands, built all the pieces. And I think we're finally starting to get a bit of traction in putting all that together and commercializing it. So I think it's a fantastic period for us as a company. I think it's a period in which the biotech and pharma investors, funds, and also companies are now taking a more serious look at cannabis. And I think it's a time where the retail investors are understanding that it's no longer how many square feet you have. It's, what is the intellectual property? What are the products? What are the brands? So a lot of what we've spent years and years and years and years to develop are finally maturing, both from a company perspective, but also from a market perspective. So I think the timing is great.
Thank you. I think that's a perfect ending to this webinar. And thanks everybody for attending as well. If you have any more questions afterwards, please feel free to send, either to myself or to Aras, but preferably myself, because Aras has a lot on his plate. So thank you, and see you again soon.